So good morning and good evening and good afternoon. So welcome to CISO Platform Annual Summit. And thanks a lot, Bruce, for joining us today. I have a very interesting problem right now. I'm on stage in front of the audience, and we are trying to do this in a hybrid mode. And there is a lag. So I'm listening to myself, and which is not a very pretty thing. I don't think I'm too fond of my voice. But nevertheless, let's get started. Good morning. Thank you Thank you for joining, Bruce.
Good morning, and hopefully my voice sounds better.
Yes, your voice is much better. I love that.
Nobody likes the sound of their own voice. It's not just you.
Okay, that makes me feel better. So all of you know Bruce, huh? Bruce doesn't need introduction. So I will not do a big introduction for Bruce. For a lot of you, Bruce is an inspiration. He is one of the foremost cryptographer, one of the most important minds in cybersecurity today. He is an author of multiple books, and he is well known as the security guru. So thank you for joining, Bruce.
Thank you.
So by the way, I don't generally pause after a sentence.
I know the delay
But since
is
I'm getting
terrible.
this lag, I'm speaking differently.
So you don't have to. We don't hear your lag, so you can
So
just talk
anyway,
over.
Bruce, yeah, that's a way out. So Bruce, I know that for you, AI is one of your favorite topics, and I am very passionate about AI as well. So I'll start with a very broad question on AI. Like, how does the future of AI look like in cybersecurity?
I mean, the short answer is we don't know. I mean, it's a really interesting question. So generally, right, AI is having computers do things that were normally done by humans. And there are a lot of tasks in security, both on the offense and the defense, that are done by humans. So the question you're asking is, on balance, as computers take over these tasks, who benefits more, the offense or the defense? I think it's a very subtle question. We don't know. Near term, I'm betting on the defense. So near term, I think that AI will help the defense more for a bunch of reasons. The main one is that we're already being attacked at computer speeds. And the ability to defend at computer speeds, I think, will be enormous, is incredibly powerful. So do defensive things at a speed that's faster than thinking. Whether it's detection or response, classification, those seem really powerful. So I think there's a lot of near-term wins for the defense in computer security and AI. But long-term, which is really what you're asking, we don't know. The other area I think there's an interesting win for the defense is in vulnerability finding, right? So AIs are right now being trained to find vulnerabilities in code, source code, object code. It's the kind of thing you can imagine they'd be good at. It's a lot of data. It's looking for patterns. You can train, you can learn, you can get better. And, right now they're kind of mediocre at it. They are getting better. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement here. And we can imagine in 5-10 years that pretty much all software vulnerabilities can be discovered by these tools, right? They can be built into the development process, and software the vulnerabilities becomes a thing in the past. Now, that's a really interesting development. So long-term, vulnerabilities are gone. Short-term, all existing code is very vulnerable, right? Because the bad guys use it. But if the good guys use it, then the vulnerabilities are fixed. So long-term, this benefits the defense as well. So those are some interesting ways to think about AI and cybersecurity. But we don't know how this arms race is going to turn out. I think that's the main thing I want people to come away with.
So Bruce, this is very interesting, the point that you made. and this is a very pessimistic alternative view of of what most of the world is thinking about when it comes to AI, right? Like they're thinking of a pessimistic world, but what you are saying in case of the cybersecurity context, AI could be a win for the defenders.
Yeah, and the thing I'm ignoring is I'm
And
ignoring all of this deep fakes. I think that is a moral panic and not very interesting. So I don't care about that. That's not going to change things dramatically. Maybe it'll make some stuff easier, some stuff a little harder, but it's not going to be a major change. Whereas finding
and
all sort of vulnerabilities is a major change.
yeah, and in fact, Bruce, I never thought of it in this way, but now that you have told this, I'm just thinking of all these open source projects or the offensive projects on AI. There are very few offensive projects on AI which are really good at a mature stage. It's not really there.
It,
There are just a few kind of things in the fringes.
that's right. I mean,
But when it comes to the defense, there are so many great products which are out already there in the SOC, in the SOAR, in like
mhm.
XDR, MDR. So I think the defenders are using AI a lot better. And I wasn't thinking of it in this way before, but once you told this, I can clearly kind of correlate and think of based on what I have seen in the past until now.
And for those in the audience who are at the RSA conference, you know that pretty much every company has an AI strategy. Like most of it is marketing bullshit, but some of it's real. And there's some really interesting stuff happening.
Wonderful, Bruce. Let's move to the next question in terms of how the bad guys are using AI. What are some of your observations in terms of how the adversary is using AI?
So we have the obvious ones that phishing and deep fakes. I mean, I don't think that's actually very interesting, but they are being used. I mean, the thing is that's there's not an inefficiency in getting victims. So getting more victims isn't really a thing. That's not the bottleneck in these scams. Uh, and then the bad guys using it the same way the good guys are, to helping them write software. And so Microsoft announced earlier this month that they found people using their programming copilot to write malware. Well, of course, right? I mean, everyone's using programming copilot to write everything. So a lot of the bad guy uses are the same as the good guy uses. So, right, they're going to be using to find vulnerabilities automatically, just like the good guys are. Use it to write better code, just like the good guys are. They'll use it to automate some of their processes, just like the good guys are. So I don't see anything unique that the bad guys are doing.
That's a very interesting point, Bruce. I have noticed one project which is something like a black hat GPT or a few such things where they're just jailbreaking some of the chat GPT versions, etc. But
Sure.
those are not like anything phenomenal, right? Those are like small things. You could have done that in other ways also.
That's right. And I think the
You
issue
could
is
just
that,
find those answers on the internet as well.
yeah, I
So
also think the
bad
issue
guys are
is
not
that,
doing anything great.
yeah, but the issue is also that jailbreaking is something that's going to happen forever. That there's no, we have a theoretical result that you cannot prevent that sort of attack. So that's going to be a thing from now on until generative AI looks very different than it does today with today's technologies.
So I'll move on to another part, which is the quantum computing and how the quantum computing is evolving. We know that the theoretical part was ready quite a long time back, but when it comes to the real implementation, there had been those hurdles. So where is quantum computing right now in terms of like the practical situation, and how do you see that's going to impact the future of cyber?
All right, so another interesting question, and another we don't know. So right now there are, as you said, the theory is there. We have toy quantum computers, not real ones, but proofs of concept, and the engineering hurdles to make a real working useful quantum computer are considerable. Right, doing this will be hard. And the phrase I use is that we don't know if it is landing a person on the surface of the moon hard, that level of hard, or landing a person on the surface of the sun hard. that level of hard. They are very different types of hard. So we don't know if there's going to be a working quantum computer. So we have a bunch of steps. Right now, the hardware isn't there, and we don't know if we can create the hardware or when. The algorithms are all theoretical. We don't know about the practical difficulties of implementing them. We won't know until we have a working quantum computer. We don't know if the algorithms are practical. Like, we know they're not exponential, but we don't know what the linear and geometric terms are. They might not be practical. On top of that, we don't know what, like, things we don't know about making these work. But assuming all of that is worked out and we get a working quantum computer, we will have practical attacks against our modern public key algorithms. So NIST right now in the United States has an international competition for quantum resistant public key algorithms. And right now the math is ahead of the physics. So we're doing really well there. So I'm pretty optimistic that we're gonna get through this. The real issue is crypto agility. The products, the services, the uses of cryptography need to be agile, need to be able to swap algorithms in and out. And if they are agile, we'll be able to handle, whether it's a quantum computer or some kind of development in classical cryptography, just sort of anything that can break existing things. And we're not very good at crypto agility. Like, we were terrible at it, a couple of decades ago when we had to replace DES with AES and MD5 with SHA and then SHA-1 and then SHA-256. So hopefully we're getting better at that. But I think that's the important thing to remember. And quantum cryptography doesn't break classical cryptography. Right? Grover's algorithm basically says it speeds up key search by a factor of a square root, which basically means you have to double your key length. And we can do that, and that's easy. So it breaks some things, not other things. We're really good at finding replacements, and we don't know if this is ever going to happen.
That's very interesting. So to summarize, one thing is we really don't know whether quantum computers are going to be born or not. I was about to ask, like, what do you think is the time frame? But you kind of answered,
We
like,
have
we really don't
no
know whether it's
idea.
like landing on moon or sun, right?
Right.
That's a great answer. And also, secondly, you mentioned that you don't really see a big danger in terms of like even if this becomes a reality, we have enough defenses, or by then we will create those enough defenses.
Well, it's less
Is that right,
that.
Bruce?
Yeah, it's less that we don't have enough defenses. It's that we need quantum resistant algorithms, and we are now in the process of creating them. So we're going through that process now because cryptographers are conservative people. I give you all these caveats, but we still don't trust it.
That's interesting. So we will move a little bit outside of technology. I know, Bruce, you are very passionate about the topic of democracy, about privacy, and you have written books and articles on this. It'll be great to hear from you. What's your thoughts on privacy and democracy today, and will it be like in the future?
I think it's interesting that it's not just privacy, but it's data science is changing a lot of things about our society. And for democracy, the obvious one is polling, right? That very, very accurate polling, right? Which has to do with all of this changes politics. The ability to precisely target demographics, very much a privacy statement, changes how politics works. So, as our society becomes more data-driven, politics becomes more data-driven. And I think it's really interesting to watch, not something we expected. But even something like insurance is an industry based on ignorance. Right? We don't know which one of us is going to get sick, so we all put money in a pool, and the one of us who gets sick gets the money. Right? Basic kind of insurance. But if we have the data to know, your health future, we can't make those pools in the same way. So I see democracy and a lot of things in society really being challenged by data and our ability to draw conclusions from that data. So data science in general. And that will include big data, it will include AI, it will include a bunch of different technologies. I think AI will largely be positive for democracy. The question is really about power. AI is a technology that magnifies power. And, it can be used by people, and it can be used by the powerful to increase their own power. I think one of the really interesting, positive cases comes from India, where Moti is using language translation to translate his talks into languages he doesn't speak or doesn't speak well. I mean, it's a really interesting, positive use of AI to allow someone to communicate to a broad audience in 20 different languages? And that's not a deep fake. That is a positive use. So that's AI is a communication tool. And you can imagine anybody using that and that becoming a way to do automatic translation and to bridge between cultures. I mean, it sounds wonderful.
And that's a great point, Bruce. And in fact, like technology in general, and not just AI, is kind of accelerating things, right? Cloud made things faster in certain ways. It made things scalable. So it scaled bad designs and misconfigurations. It also scaled good designs and misconfigurations. And over a period of time, like cloud is getting more and more secure than like the traditional old way of doing stuff, right? So I believe in the long run, AI and all the technologies is eventually going to be beneficial. But one thing which I kind of think could be detrimental is that it can cause more polarization.
That's right.
Technology can cause more polarization.
So I think that's 100% right. And
Hmm.
how much of it is the technology and how much of it is the business models, right? I mean, technology can do that, but the real issue is these tech platforms make money based on surveillance and control, which means they prioritize engagement over anything else, which means they prioritize divisive content over everything else. So I don't blame the tech here. I blame the business model that the tech is embedded in. Right? If Facebook, charged a fixed fee per year to be a subscriber, and they were worried about renewal rates, they wouldn't care whether you were on the platform an hour a day or 10 hours a day, only that you are happier, right? And they would have a very different sort of platform. So yes, but this is why I think it has to do with power and why economics is so important, because it's how these systems are embedded, into the world.
So that's a very interesting point, Bruce. And I had been thinking of it in this manner, like the politicians were same as before as today. I mean, they did not change. The religious leaders had been same as today. So human nature didn't really change much. We still have all these basic kind of elements in us. But there are a few things which has changed. Like the old school newspapers had been like you open the newspaper and you see like here's an opinion on for the topic or against the topic. So when you go to a newspaper and see something, it was already kind of curated, right? But when
Mhm.
search came up, it is like I'm going and looking for what I want to, and not like
Right.
what the curator or the editor has kind of decided to show. So this is a very different way of consuming information. So one was like a curated one, and this is where I'm going and looking for what I want. And then on top of it, there's another dangerous thing, which is the personalization, right? Now once the search engine or the social media, they know that I'm looking for something like this, they are going to feed more of that, and that is going to make me more and more polarized, right? And that's on the tech side. But one very important point which you mentioned is that this tech side of stuff works because of the business model, right? If
Right.
the business model was different, then the tech could have worked completely differently. So the fundamental part you are saying is like the business model which is driving the technology to move towards more polarization.
And think of the business model of the newspaper was you bought a bundle, and you wanted the sports or the stock markets and you got the news. You wanted the news and you got the crossword puzzle. It all came in one bundle. And once you bought the bundle, you own the bundle. So, I mean, the notion of clickbait headlines is because there's no bundle. And, if you want the crossword, you don't look at the news. If you want to see the news and it's not an exciting headline, you're not going to click through. So that unbundling really changed the nature of these sorts of businesses. Right? In the United States, classified ads supported a lot of the newspaper, and classified ads went away, with something like Craigslist. And I'm sure it's the same in your country. So the unbundling, the notion that every headline has to be exciting or no one's going to look at it, the fact that everyone expects it to be free, right? You don't pay for the newspaper, and so advertising has to carry it all, and that's hard. So there's a lot here, and again, the tech is neither good nor bad, right? But the tech is steered through the economics of making it work.
So the tech is like a knife. You might use it for chopping vegetables or do something bad
And I think
or
I
do
think
something
all
good
tech
like
is.
on the
Yeah,
operating table, right?
right. And AI as well, right? The conversation we had about AI, it's the same thing.
So Bruce, in terms of like in last few years, is there something which has happened in the technology world, in the cybersecurity world, which came into you as a surprise?
I think generative AI surprised everybody. I mean, I think that is the big surprise. We did not expect that if you just threw more computing at the problem, then an AI model would spout, you know, real text, real conversation, that the emergent properties of it can pass law school exams, that it could create recipes, that it could be a therapist, that it could summarize articles. I mean, it is amazing. And I don't think anyone expected that. I don't think the researchers expected that. And it's neat, right? I think we're all excited by it. We're security people. We spend a lot of time on how it goes wrong and the mistakes, but it's still super exciting. And I mean, to me, that's been a huge surprise if I was to pick one. And then all the surprises that are coming from generative AI and different ways that is working.
So Bruce, there are these fundamental models in AI, which I guess is going to be controlled by 4 or 5 giants across the globe. There will not be much of space for other folks to come in. But there could be a very huge opportunity in terms of like the applications on top of it, right? On top of these like models. So what are some of the areas in cybersecurity where you see there could be a big transformation because of
So I think you're definitely right that the monopolization of the AI models is very dangerous. That the fact that it's controlled by a few large, mostly US companies, is something I think we have to worry about. And I think you're right. There was going to be a lot around it, and so this is important. We spent a lot of time thinking about the AI models and how they work and how they're trained and how they're created. But you're right. There's going to be a lot of software between you and the model, right? Editing what you write to what the model receives. And on the other side, there's a lot of software between what the model spits out and what you see. So an enormous amount of think of that as middleware that between you and the AI. And yeah, there's gonna be huge innovations. I think that's where a lot of the innovations are going to happen in the next couple of years. I don't know what that's going to lead to. I mean, I think it's going to lead to specialized models. We have even OpenAI has GPTs where they're trying to make personalized models. We're seeing different ways the models can be tweaked and tuned and pushed and prodded. And I think there's going to be a lot of innovation there. So I don't have, where it's going to go or what it's going to do or how it's going to be. But I think you are right to see that as a huge area of innovation.
Wonderful. And Bruce, let's close with your new book which you came up with. Of course, you have written like more than maybe 20 books until now. So please tell us a little bit about the new book which you came up with.
So I should be waving it around, but my draft is downstairs. So it is a draft of a book. It is not a book yet, so don't get too excited. It's going to be published in the fall of next year, so a long time from now. So again, don't get too excited. And I'm writing a book on AI and democracy. I'm writing a book about what happens, and this is not about deep fakes. This is not about misinformation. It's about what happens when AI starts writing laws or adjudicating disputes or engages in policy debate, is an advisor to a campaign. And I think there are a lot of possibilities here, both good and bad. And my goal is to tease them out so we can think about them and try to, make the good ones happen and avoid the bad ones. So it's an exciting thing to write. It's a long time from now. And the reason it's so long is because of the US election. That, no one's going to read a book I published this year. And if I publish a book in spring, it won't talk about the US election, which means it'll be ridiculous and obsolete. So my window is fall of 2025. And, in our field, it's really hard to write something at such a time frame, right? We're used to writing an essay and it's published in 2 weeks because things change so quickly. So it's interesting to engage in that process. So this is very slow and deliberate process on something that is rapidly changing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Like it's like taking the picture of a bullet train and you don't have that kind of high speed
Yes, that is
shutters.
exactly what it's like. Yes.
Wonderful, Bruce. So wish you all the best, Bruce, for your new book. Thanks a lot for joining us today. It was a
Thanks for having
wonderful
me.